Hello. What's up? I usually dance during this part, so.
We do usually dance during this part. Also, I just realized that my microphone now cuts right into my ribs.
Oh, good.
That's great.
Oh,
this
good.
is gonna be fantastic. Also, I have 3 mics right now.
Just in case people don't hear you.
Never has one nerd had so much amplification. So normally what we do is we screw around for like 20 minutes and then we frantically over-record, but we've been told that we have to stick to time. So we're actually gonna do that today. Natasha, do you want to give us just the really quick run through and then we'll dive in?
Yeah, well, thank you all for being here so early. Apparently, San Francisco is the city that sleeps in, so I appreciate you all being here. And we're going to talk about our 3 themes of the year so far. But we're going to start with, I think, the biggest present we could have gotten, which is our deal of the week. I'm not going to spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
But it was an equity present, and longtime listeners will get why we are so excited.
It's not Kanye and Parler.
It's not Kanye and Parler.
So don't worry. And I don't think we're going to say the words Elon Musk except for right then.
Yeah, done.
You're safe.
It's over. But yeah, so we're going to do that, hop into our 3 themes, and then jump off.
I mean, we have 29 minutes and 6 seconds left.
Okay, let's do it.
I hope everyone has a coffee or a pastry. They're supposed to be around here somewhere. I don't know. I can't see them. Shall we?
Let's go.
do it.
Okay, Marianne, you are the most organized, so you count me in.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to Equity, TechCrunch's venture capital focused podcast where we unpack the numbers and the nuance behind the headlines. My name is Alex and I'm on stage at Disrupt, which is hilarious. We've been talking about this event since like March, and it's insane to be here. But of course, not alone. I'm here with the full crew. I have Natasha Mascarenas. Natasha, say hello.
Hello. This is so weird. Everyone always says, like, when they're at concerts to, like, be present and take it in, but I am very present, and I've taken it very
That's for people who are in the
aware.
audience. You're supposed to be like organized and on point, I think actually is what your job is. We also have Marianne Azevedo. Marianne, hi. It's so good to see you in person.
It's awesome to see you in person. I can't even believe I'm here.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're going to have 28 more minutes of this, so we better make it funny. So, as always, Equity is a show by VC, blah, 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 blah. We won an award, blah, 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 blah. Downloads. Skip the rest of that intro. Natasha, tell me about our deal of the week and why we are full of joy on this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like the crazy thing that happened yesterday was that we learned that Fast co-founder Dom Holland is returning to startups.
Again.
Again, and we're gonna get into kind of why that's crazy, but the tweet was basically, you know, he's been having fun, heads down, building over the last few months with a small team. They're gonna be releasing an alpha version, and Alex, it's B2B SaaS. So, you're welcome.
How dare he come into my domain?
You have to cover him now, and me and Marianne are just gonna...
When it was one-click online checkout, I didn't have to care because one, everyone was doing it. Everyone had already raised $1 bajillion, and you knew most of them were going to either merge or implode. Right. I didn't think Fast was going to end up imploding the way that it did, famously so, on the show and so forth. But B2B SaaS, Marianne, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hype are you?
Honestly, it doesn't matter what it is that he's doing. I'm just kind of surprised he's doing it so quickly after Fast imploded. I didn't expect it to be that fast.
Can we, like,
Fast.
walk through?
No pun intended.
I know. Oh, I was gonna save that. But can we walk through? Because you guys wrote the story about Fast shutting down, correct?
Probably.
Can we walk through what happened? Then they burned a ton of cash. They hired too many people. Was that it, or?
Well, there's the third part, which they didn't make any money.
They didn't make much money. It was 6 figures, and like they were valued at multiples higher than their revenue, right?
Yeah, no offense to that multiple, but if we're going to value equity on that kind of like revenue multiple, I'm pretty sure this show could retire. So that wasn't good. And they were so noisy was the thing. You felt like they were projecting this demeanor of excellence, and it turned out they were building something that people weren't using. And also, this is not the first time he's had one of these.
Yeah, you caught that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know if people know this, but in Australia, apparently he started another company. I don't even remember the name, but it was like an Uber for towing.
Tao.com.au.
Okay, yeah, Uber for towing. It also failed. Big shock. And apparently he pissed off a lot of people in Australia, and it was thought that he came here to the US to kind of reinvent himself, and then he came here and pissed off a lot of people in the US as well. And so I guess he's not done pissing off people yet.
Well, maybe this is the time it all turns. No, probably not.
Well, so there was the story that we have in the script, which is the Stanford professor said, failure is not a curse, but what's important is how failure happened. And I kind of liked that. Obviously, it's the nuance behind the numbers that I'm here for. But it's like, there's been so many layoffs and changes over the past year that it's not like just because Fast shut down it was a failure. It was kind of the way in which it failed.
Right, right.
I think that's important to remember. It's not just us being cynical.
Yeah,
you know?
and the arrogance that kind of came along with the the stuff happening prior to the failure. I think that arrogance is what just, the arrogance and then the huge drop, you know, it's like.
Alex, are you going to cover the B2B SaaS company when it raises inevitably?
I mean, probably. I hate myself already. Also, I learned there's a new issue that we have with doing equity on stage. I haven't worn makeup in like 4 years, and I usually it turns out I touch my face a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So now I've just got makeup
You're
all over
like-
my left hand. So if you see me, don't let me hug you because you'll get a weird shaped handprint.
I forgot my glasses, so I can't see the script.
And this mic is too high for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first day of Disrupt.
Wait, do you want to share with me?
I can't see.
You can't see, okay.
No,
okay.
it's not your laptop
Okay,
that will
okay.
fix it. It's Marianne's eyes that need help.
All right, well, we're going to just make it work anyways.
All right, enough about Dom, enough about Fast and whatever comes next. I think we'll all be watching. I'm here for a rebirth. I'm not here for folks getting the third try when some folks don't get a first, but let's move on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll take that. That person was listening. All right, now we have three key things
Yes.
because we're doing a bit of a look back, and there's been a simply insane amount of change this year. We came into 2022 on a high. Venture capital was still pretty much going nuts. The stock market was in trouble, but not too bad. And then as the year has gone along, things have gone straight to hell, kind of, around the world, more or less?
Yeah.
Okay. So we picked some themes, and Natasha, you are first about what is life like today out there for a founder?
I mean, I think the reason the Fast deal was a present for me is it perfectly proves my theme, which is that reputation these days is a super complicated thing, and we don't know when it matters and when it's completely irrelevant, or when it's going to be like repackaged into like a competitive advantage, and this is why they're actually disruptive founders, and you should definitely back them again. And so this year, I feel like we've seen a lot of like, you know, tech Twitter blew up when Adam Newman got his return from Andreessen, and
$350 million.
the biggest check ever.
Yes.
But then, you know, months before that, we saw, like in 2021, we saw this huge departure from Dispo and the investors being like, we're going to donate our profits to nonprofits or places that support with assault. And so it was kind of this like dissonance that I was like, okay, like we know what's happening. On the other end, I'm hearing a lot of VCs be like, due diligence matters to me more than anything, discipline matters to me more than anything. And so I'm just at a place now where I'm like, reputation matters, but only sometimes, and when we feel like it, and maybe today, because it's Tuesday.
Please.
Sorry, just before I forget, to that point on Twitter when there was chatter about Dom's new plans, someone said, it'll be very interesting to see which VCs back this
Yes.
new company. Is that what you were gonna
Publicly.
say?
Oh,
At
no, I was
least.
going to make a completely
Oh, okay,
asinine
sorry.
comment. Well, because Natasha was like, you know, VCs are saying due diligence is back. And I'm like, yes, every time I'm super hungover, I would say I'm never drinking again.
There we go. That's what I'm saying.
'Cause
It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
Last
That's
year, due
true.
diligence was like this naughty word, like, oh my gosh, you want to see the finances?
Yeah.
You only have 12 hours to make this investment, boy. You better get that wire transfer going.
Which is
It's
ridiculous.
whiplash. It's
Yeah.
like very. I feel for founders right now because I always like start most of my interviews off being like, I would never do what you do, but now especially it feels difficult. My optimistic curve to my theme is that 90% of my stories about layoffs this year were a tip from an employee who was impacted, and so it's been kind of cool to see, you know, reputation be damned. Employees speaking up and it developing into stories that do, and you know, hold a company accountable. That impacts their recruiting efforts. It impacts their public image, and I love that. I love that like a single employee can like do that in this market, and that was completely hidden in a world where like everyone was buying into the, you know, the mission is my life and startup is family of 2021. Like 2022 feels a lot more realistic.
Well, thank God. Like Mark Goldberg that I interviewed recently of Index Ventures, that the killer quote from him was, last year was the party, this year is the hangover. And I mean, it was the perfect analogy for what we've experienced in the startup world and venture capital. And I think we're really just starting to see how hungover we are. You know, it was too much.
I'm actually incredibly caffeinated right now.
Yeah, me too. I'm like freaking out kind of.
I'm actually levitating off my chair slightly. You can't see it. But I want to go back to the layoffs point, Natasha, because reputation in layoffs is a
Yeah.
thing I think we've seen is more closely aligned than people knew. Go back in time to early COVID. It's like May, June of 2020. Airbnb, I'm getting the month wrong, but roll with me. Like Airbnb cuts a bunch of their staff. And Airbnb did it in such a way that someone told me was designed to welcome those people back later when they had more money, aka revenue.
Yeah.
And you know what? It worked out. Airbnb rebounded. They had the talent to do so, and then they went public, and then now everyone hates them. But like the point is, it worked out in the short term, and I think that's an indication of reputation mattering quite a lot. And if
Hell
we're gonna
yeah.
do more layoffs, then it probably matters more now.
You know what's crazy to me though is like Fast sold, or that's kind of a weird way to put it, but like Fast had an agreement when it had layoffs and shut down that its engineers would go to a firm.
That's right.
And so I'm like, I wonder if that was goodwill because he knew he was going to have them again or wanted them again one day. I agree with your point though. It like very much speaks for itself. The way that, I mean, we don't get tips about companies that do it nicely, right? Like I feel we usually get tips of like people who were, you know,
Upset
given a
or-
15-minute Zoom call and then looked in their Slack was they had no longer had access.
What was that company? Lesser.com? Metter.com? I think I heard about a company that was doing this, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's just ongoing. That saga has not ended.
Is there
and-
anyone left at Better.com? Because I feel like at this
Yeah.
point,
Their CEO. Just the CEO.
There's actually, I think, maybe a couple of thousand or so, but from what I understand, they're trying to whittle it down as much as possible because it's burning too much cash.
yeah, well, it's
So-
a tough time in the real estate market in general. In fact, remember when everyone was trying to solve the iBuying problem because houses only go up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I grew up in that economy.
Well, we'll save the better.com because I feel like we're going to get to it when we get to your theme.
Yeah.
But Alex, your theme is kind of like a continuation of all of ours. We all agree with each other a lot on this podcast, as you guys probably know.
we
But
actually need to bring someone else on who's just completely like, you guys are all full of crap, and I don't.
I think that
wanna
was
hear it."
Danny Creighton. I
That
think.
was Danny Creighton.
Danny!
We had that person. There's some equity friends and family in the audience today who have been with us for a long time. So my theme is startups relearning how to be scrappy. We had Sarah Goa on the show now of. Not Coalition
Conviction.
Capital. Conviction Capital, the other C Capital. Okay. Formerly of Greylock for 10 years, well known in the space, and she was talking about how companies have to kind of rejigger how they go about doing things. Capital is more expensive, efficiency is prized, and you know, I think that means a lot more earned media versus buying billboards and tons of ads. I think that startups are going to have to do a little bit more of inventing their own magic as opposed to leveraging and just leaning on outsized checks from outside their firm. And I think it's going to be good for everybody. It's going to lead to better companies.
It's weird because I feel like at times I'm like, okay, that means they're gonna like, you know, just like start like tweeting and like sharing their story publicly, but it often also amounts to like Brex buying another yacht. I know they're a sponsor, I'm saying it. Like Brex is buying yachts.
Brex has a yacht?
They always rent a yacht for these events. I'm sure there's a Disrupt yacht.
Oh,
There's
I
a
didn't know
Disrupt
that.
yacht?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Is that true?
I mean, I wasn't invited, so I don't
Yeah.
know. But and this
Where's
is probably
the
why I
boat?
wasn't invited. But I feel like so the scrappiness I feel like is so subjective at times that I wish there was like a clear path to knowing the best way. But we talked about this on Equity Wednesday a few months ago. Like everyone builds in public differently, and that's always the first definition of scrappy when I think of it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've always been impressed with the lean and mean mentality. When I interview companies and they tell me they're going to double or triple their headcount, there's good and bad there, right? Like, are you sure you need to do that? And you know, so I'm more impressed with a company that's like, yeah, we've got 10 people, and you know, we're growing like 10x. That's a lot more impressive to me than you know, hundreds and hundreds, and you've got not much to show for it.
It also changes what recruiting means, because if you were going to triple your engineering team in the next 8 months, you're going to have to be kind of like, we're going to take some risks here.
Yeah.
But if you're going to hire one person from 10 to 11, that's 10% of your company. You're probably going to spend a lot of time on that one hire. You can open your water. It's okay.
Okay, I'm
Just
just
make a lot of noise.
Be really aggressive about it. Okay, thank you.
Also, they put stickers on these for us. I feel so fancy.
Oh, I think because they. Okay.
We're not allowed to show brand names
Yeah,
on stage.
that's
I don't
why.
think. Except for like, you know, key ones. But that's separate.
Well, Alex, I was going to ask you something.
Yes, please.
Is there a startup that you think really like embodies the startups who know how to be scrappy right now?
Well, I mean, ironically, the scrappiest startups are the ones we don't cover that much.
Yeah.
Because they don't have key kind of newsy milestones. I mean, we covered Fast a bunch because they quickly raised a bunch of money. And so they were constantly pinging us and be like, hi. And I think it was actually kind of an indictment of us that we were a bit too focused on the metrics they were sharing, which was like GMV growth week over month or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And we kind of missed the key story there, which was the actual business wasn't growing. So the scrappiest companies are often like Zapier. Like, we all use Zapier, we all know it exists, but do we cover them that much?
Yeah, no, we don't.
We probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to this. This is now equity therapy.
Yeah. I think like with like the bootstrapped conversation.
Yeah.
That like is a wish list item for November maybe is like just focusing more on bootstrap startups because they've kind of been waiting in the wings this whole time.
We don't hear from them all that often. I have interviewed and written about a number of bootstrapped companies, but I don't necessarily hear from them as much. But I mean, and also to that point, we can't just write about a company that's bootstrapped unless there's something exciting.
Unless they're taking on venture capital for the first
No.
time.
If they'll share growth
Yeah.
metrics, we
Yeah.
can talk about
Exactly.
them. But area companies still in business, not really a headline.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they're willing to share some numbers and they are impressive.
Should we just take the mics and talk about what we want people to tell us?
Yes. Here's the top 10 things to tell us, and we pay attention to whatever the hell it is you are currently doing. I want to flip this around though, because we're being kind of software-centric, it feels. Yesterday, I was sitting in on Tim Deschamps' speaker training session. He's doing a thing about patient capital and kind of longer-term horizons.
Nice.
Kind of thinking about climate and more intractable engineering and science risks that we need to work on.
Yeah.
And often venture capital has kind of a component to play. Those things take a long time to build and are often very expensive. So when we say bootstrap, what we really mean is they made a software product that monetized from day 3. And that's one kind of company to build, but it's not the only one. And so if we're going to tackle climate change and other things that are of great importance, there will need to be a lot of capital, but it'll just look different in terms of expectations and so forth. So I don't want to like overly pigeonhole founders and say you have to do one thing.
No, not at all. And also, I think being like lean and mean is a good thing, and raising money is a good thing, but it's how you spend your money, how you treat your employees that really is very important. Reputation, humility, all these things are just underrated, I think, in the venture world. And part of this to me was seen last year when we saw venture money flowing like crazy. I mean, insane valuations, back-to-back fundraisers, and I think investors had all this FOMO, and funders are just wrapped up in it. And I think it was really bad for everyone involved. And companies now probably are suffering because of this mentality that everybody had. It was like this frenzy, this funding frenzy that was going on. It was just not sustainable.
It's weird because it's like Andreessen still wrote its biggest check to date. Maybe. I mean, the $350 million, we don't know how much of it was
Some
equity.
real estate stuff is associated
Right.
with that,
So
too.
that's the hard part. Is like a lot of people are telling founders right now, it is the hardest time to raise. This is really hard. It sucks.
Okay, that's not true.
But if you're a white male founder, it's very different. It's harder for the people that it's always been harder for, is what I'm trying to say, which is a frustrating nuance that's often missed.
Well, it's funny because when I was learning about VC back when I was younger, I was told that constrictions lead to a lot of creativity. Essentially, if you don't have all the things in the world, you'll have to prioritize more ruthlessly, make better choices, cut things that aren't working, focus on what does, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard this. And then we went to kind of the overfunded, overfed, kind of the foie gras startup model last year, when they were just force-fed just buckets of money.
Do you guys know I accidentally ate foie gras once because I thought it was like gras met grass as a vegetarian.
Did you think it meant
so
fake
I ate
grass?
it, and I loved it. And then that was it. Sorry, I had to take that and admit it on stage.
How long have you been veggie?
Since I was 13.
Wow.
So a decade.
You decided at
or more than a
13?
decade. But yeah, what?
You were much more interesting at 13 than I was.
No, I didn't have foie gras at 13. I was like 16.
You made the choice to become vegetarian
yeah.
at 13. Jesus.
I had a bad McChicken, and it was like...
Is that what did it?
That was what did it. Everyone's like, that's so like brave of you. And I was like, it's not.
I was attacked by McDonald's, and I stopped eating. That's like crashing a go-kart and never driving a Ferrari.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, that's fine. I miss teriyaki chicken sometimes.
I never
Anyways.
knew that
All right.
about you. It's just, I love when I learn things about you.
I was going to tell my poetry magazine analogy about venture capital fundraising, but I feel like
No,
it's not
please
gonna be as
do.
funny. All right, well. So my dad told me a story about a small poetry magazine, little teeny thing, barely scraping by. I mean, poetry plus magazine, not the best business model in the world. And there was this rich person who loved it. They died, and they left a bunch of money to the small poetry magazine. And then it immediately failed because it had no structure in place to handle an influx of capital, didn't know how to hire, didn't know how to scale. And I feel like last year, many startups that could have been smaller businesses figuring things out, getting to product market fit and so forth, which we're talking about here on the TC Plus stage in a little bit, they would have had a much better chance of hiring more intelligently, having to do fewer cuts this year, and just had stronger, more kind of wholesome, winsome businesses. So I think it's going to be good, although it'll be boring for us. Because people won't be like, oh my God, I raised again, every 20 minutes.
That is what
bit.
happens, isn't it?
And, shall we?
Yeah, let's do the third one. So, Marianne, your theme is very, very good advice.
It's a
Go for it.
subtweet at better.com, let's just be clear.
Well, it's actually very much related to everything we've been talking about. As we've mentioned, we've been covering layoffs all year round. They happen, right? I mean, we're not saying that if a company has to conduct a layoff that they screwed up or they necessarily did something wrong. It just could be an honest misstep in running their business. However, we have seen also many examples of companies just overhiring with CEOs admitting it, that they overhired. Let's see, how many did we have that
Robinhood
do that?
did that, didn't
Robinhood
they?
did that.
Yeah.
Better.com, Vishal Garg,
Peloton, I have the
CEO,
script
did
for
that.
you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
You're literally talking without a script right now. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's all right. But yeah, so a number of companies where CEOs are admitting, okay, we screwed up, we overhired, we went crazy, and then they're like laying off like crazy. So to me, this really sucks because the people that are impacted the most by this are these employees, right? And they're getting hired in these boom times, and they're all excited. We worked on a story, Christine Hall and I, where we talked to former Better.com employees, and it was just so messed up to hear. Like, they were genuinely like shattered, you know? They were like,
Their personal lives.
yeah, and just, you know, they were treated like shit. They were screwed over. Even after they got laid off, they couldn't collect unemployment.
Oof.
You know, they got less severance than their colleagues that were let go earlier in the year. I mean, all sorts of things. So it's like we, to the point earlier, if you're going to lay off, you know, do it in a good way. Do it in a sensitive way. There are ways to do it. Be transparent.
I want to get back to this very important point, but now that Marianne has broken the profanity barrier, I'm allowed to
Did she
swear.
curse?
She said shit.
Was
Oh.
I not supposed to?
Fuck.
No, now we're off the chain. I said crap earlier because I was like, I don't know the rules.
Oh, sorry.
Who's in charge?
You, Alex. I think
Oh.
you. I think you're hosting.
Sorry.
No one told me if I was allowed to swear or not. But thank you, Marianne, for breaking that barrier. Back to your very important point about manners, though.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, like, treat your employees well. So, like, Airbnb, like he was talking about. I mean, if you do a layoff, right, it doesn't have to be like negative headlines or negative for your company, and it doesn't mean people are never going to want to work for you again, right? I mean, if you handle it well, you're transparent, you're sensitive, you do it okay, it's fine. But so many companies have not, and that's just not, you know, that's not good.
There's like one startup continuum built by Carta's former head of something people maybe, and it's kind of gives you an executive for a few months and walks you through layoffs. And I'm kind of surprised that
We talked about that.
there's not
Yeah.
more of these services. Like I mean, I'm surprised that we don't even have something on the site that's like, here's how to conduct a layoff.
Well, we did that one story.
How to not
Better.com taught you how not to downsize.
Who wants to write the story? Here's how
I mean,
to
yeah,
fire
I don't want to
people.
write that. But all I'm saying is I feel like it's a free startup idea in a way, right? Like,
Have you been laid off before?
I have not.
Okay. Have you been laid off?
I think I was like once, but it was fine. I wanted to be, so.
Oh, you wanted to be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like such a mood when you're like at a point with the company, you're like severance soon,
I was actually
maybe?
happy about it,
Me?
so that was different. But
When I
anyway.
laid off, I didn't get severance. I was working for a startup in Chicago, and we gathered in the founder's living room, and he was like, well, we're out of money. So that's that. And we were all like, shit. It was easy.
Well, before I forget, also, since I don't have my script here, something else though, like before you get to the layoff point, like back to the hiring process to begin with, be more strategic about it, like be more thoughtful about it. Really think, okay, do we need to fill so many roles? Do we need to hire 50 million salespeople?
Yeah.
Do we need this many of this? Like, don't just go crazy and think, oh, we got all these millions of dollars, so let's spend it. No, you don't have to spend it. You can save some of it. You can, you know, because
Runway's
things
a
like
thing,
downturns
guys.
happen, right? And you might not be able to raise again so soon. So like, it goes back to your, be scrappy. Don't be like spending money like crazy. You know, even if you have the millions, doesn't mean you have to spend them. Hundreds of millions.
I was about to say millions is
billions.
peanuts. Don't hit me with a pre-seed round. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we only have a couple minutes left. I wanted to be self-indulgent, more so than usual actually, and say that this is not the first time we've had this little podcast at Disrupt. We've done this a number of times, but usually we would be like tucked in the back on the first floor with little handheld mics, and we couldn't hear each other, and the audio quality is bad. We have to shout. And we've been slowly upgraded throughout the years, and now we're here, and it feels like vindication. Ha! We didn't give up.
Right after hitting 10 million
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
downloads, so that was super exciting.
Oh, that reminds me. I forgot this in my little intro spiel. We have pins. And P-I-N-S. Apparently I can't say the word pins correctly.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't have pens.
Pins.
We can't do this again. I can't take the abuse one more time. We have small icons that you can pin onto your jackets if you would like to for the Equity Show, and then Chain Reaction tomorrow, and then Found on Thursday.
Yeah.
There's 200 each day, and then when they're gone, they're literally gone, because I don't know where they came from. They just appeared randomly. So if you want one, they will be somewhere, and if you see us, we will probably have some in our pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm taking handfuls.
You're taking
I'm going to jump off of the stage and take handfuls.
It's not a rock concert. It's a nerd podcast. And then what I want to do just before we go is hear about what you guys are doing this week. What's coming up?
Oh, man. I'll start. I am interviewing Chief's co-founders later today. They are building a membership company for women in positions of leadership. So we're going to talk about how their competitors have failed and how they are still winning and are still alive.
Wait, what was the company's name?
Chief?
Chief?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like, what was that women's only?
The Wing.
The Wing.
The Wing,
Yeah.
which just died.
It just died this year.
Yeah.
And if you stay around for that one, it's going to be on the Disrupt stage. I am really proud of the title I chose for it, and I'm not going to ruin it. So you'll see if you know if you know.
Is it in the agenda?
Yeah. So don't look
So
until
everyone,
now.
so everyone knows.
Anyways, it's a okay. Anyways, I'm gonna compartmentalize that. I'm talking to Kevin Hart tomorrow, which is gonna be crazy. I'm wearing heels on purpose.
How is it dealing with the celebrities team?
It was exactly what you think, and I've talked to his trainer. His trainer's awesome.
His physical trainer?
His fitness trainer, I'm pretty sure.
Why did you talk to his
Because
trainer?
it's not just a fitness trainer; it's a business.
That's
and,
interesting.
And then my last talk is with Clubhouse. So we're going to talk about what happens after all the hype fades and how you rebuild. So that's going to be on this stage. And I think I'm closing out the show on the last day.
I
so-
think you're the last thing on this stage
Yeah.
on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then we're all going to pile over to hear how the Battlefield finals go, I think, after that. So we're going to wrap up here, I think, an hour before the Disrupt stage, and then we'll all just shuffle as a group around the corner and then go stand and stare right at Matt Burns' face. Where's Burns? He's here
Somewhere.
Yeah, I can't see
Marion,
him.
what are you working on?
Tomorrow I am interviewing, or there's going to be a panel that I'll be moderating with Ramp's CEO, Airbase CEO, and Anthemis investor. That'll be interesting. They're going to talk about how to compete while not losing your mind and your runway. So that should be fun.
So they should just listen to the show and then they'll be fine.
Yeah, well,
Super tactical.
We're just the experts, right?
No.
And, then I have a fireside chat tomorrow with Breck's co-founder Henrique Du.
We're going to know how to pronounce that last name before he goes on stage.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm not going to butcher it.
Yeah, Breck's
the point?
co-founder, CEO, tomorrow afternoon, as well as one of his early investors, Anu, with YC
Oh, I
Growth.
like her.
Yeah, she'll be there too. And then Thursday, I'll be talking to Parker Conrad from Rippling about some new product announcement.
And
they
also
have.
another kind of one of those second chance stories.
Oh,
yeah, that's true. True.
Zenefits is still echoing in the background of the startup world.
Is it just you and Parker on
Yeah.
stage? Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Which stage is it on?
Main, or
Right.
sorry, Disrupt.
There you go.
Yeah.
Two main
Disrupt stage.
stages.
It's habit.
I know, we've been
sorry.
having that conversation all week long. And then tomorrow, Chain Reaction, that'll be Jackie Melinek, Anita Ramaswamy, and Lucas Matney. And then on Thursday morning, Found, which is Jordan Crook, and then Daryl from Canada.
Yeah, Daryl, who's on 3 podcasts and somehow gets away with it.
That's
Alex,
the best
what are
job
you
at
doing
TC.
during this conference?
Yeah,
are you doing
what
any? Are you
about
busy
you?
at all?
So what we've done is we've turned me into something like a show pony.
Yeah.
And you just trot me out in between things, and I'm just going to say things like, break, and then I'm going to go backstage.
Guys, laugh at his jokes, because we won't be here the whole time to laugh at his jokes. So you laugh at his jokes for me. Thank you.
I don't actually have that many jokes planned because I was in a complete panic before I came on stage, and I was
No,
like,
it's fine.
just remember the 3 things you have to say, and then sit down, don't faint. And I pulled that off. I did not fall over, so I'm very proud of myself.
Good job.
Awesome.
And then the last thing I want to say before we go is this is a surprise week for the technology market because last time I checked, the stock market's going up for the first time
missed
in a while. And that means that instead of this being a doom and gloom, sad times fest, we can celebrate the fact that for once, the market's sending us good news. So good vibes, everybody. I hope you found a whole bunch of coffee. And we are now going to shut up and go away and get ready for the first actual session. This has to leave, so we're going to do that. And then we'll be right back.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
show. Thank you.